Shaitanir Rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I greet you, my brothers and sisters, with the universal greeting of peace, the greeting used by the prophets and the messengers of our universal creator, Almighty Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And it's so important to greet ourselves, as we greet each other, with the conscious greeting of peace. That peace, salam, is a state of being, peace. It's not just hello, how are you, how's it? Salam is a name, is an attribute of our universal creator, Almighty Allah. Salam, peace. So it's a state of being. You can't think peace, you can't do peace. Peace is not a ritual, peace is not a belief, but peace is a state that we human beings can experience, the experience of peace. The experience of an inner stability. And so we have the opportunity today to begin to go deeper into Allah consciousness. For those of you who want to actually be Allah conscious, to experience Allah consciousness. See, so if Allah is as-salam, peace, and you are aware of Allah, then you are aware of peace. You are aware of Allah, you are aware of peace. You are aware of Allah, you are experiencing Allah consciousness, you are experiencing peace. Salam. The Quran tells us when we come across people that don't know, they don't know, and they think they know, it's pointless talking to them if they're not interested in learning. We greet them with the greeting of peace. Greet everybody, but with those people who are, not at peace because they are unaware of truth, they are unaware of Allah, they're not experiencing Allah, they're not experiencing the truth. When we meet such people, of course I have been that person, by the way, but I was humbled in my life to open to learn and welcome in truth into my life. Beyond my mind and his thinking, I went into awareness. I went into a higher level of awareness, a higher level of experiencing, beyond the self that is whispered to by Satan, the satanic self. You see, the Quran tells us many things, and one of the things that it emphasizes is to be aware of Satan, and that Satan is an enemy avowed to humanity, and that we are to claim refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. That we are to not let the chief deceiver deceive us about Allah. See? So, the Quran says, eat halal, eat tayyib. The Quran says these things are not good for you, not good for the community. Alcohol, gambling, certain dietary food, is not part of the dietary requirements of the believer. We stay away from them, steer away from them too. So the Quran tells us many things as guidance. But is there more relevant guidance than be aware of Satan, claim refuge with Allah? The Quran begins with A'udhu, and the last two chapters of the Quran, they are about claiming the refuge with Allah. See, so if you read the verses on eat halal and tayyib, it follows by saying that, and Satan is an enemy avowed, that Satan is the deceiver. Be aware. So I think that every other kind of guidance, which is like eat healthy and wholesome, and then it says Satan is the one who leads you to unconscious and subconscious living. You're living below the level of consciousness, of human consciousness, what we conscious, and you're living subconsciously. You're operating unconsciously. When people just eat, they don't realize that what they're eating has an effect on their bodies. They don't realize. They're living unconsciously. And they are operating in a subconscious way. They are living at a sub-awareness level. Then Allah guides us to awareness. Allah's guidance, and by the way the Quran says, whom Allah guides, none can misguide or mislead. None can lead astray. If Allah is guiding you, the Quran tells us that if you are being guided by Allah, remember the Quran says, we believe in Allah, Allah will guide your heart. So if you are really believing in Allah, I really believe in Allah, Allah is guiding my heart. I'm not asking Allah to guide my heart. I have asked Allah to guide my heart. And Allah is guiding my heart. The Quran says, if you believe in Allah, Allah will guide your heart. The Quran says, if you believe in Allah, you must need Allah to guide your heart. Be that existential pessimist that is an unbeliever. Be that person who experiences existential abandonment. The person who is unaware of Allah, the person who is not experiencing Allah consciousness, the person who knows nothing about the truth of Allah. The Quran says, be careful, be aware that Satan is the chief deceiver, and do not let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. See, the Quran says don't eat this kind of food because it's guiding you to become health conscious. The Quran is telling you this is how you relate to people. Don't kill anybody, don't respect people and so on, don't aggressively harm people. This is Satan. Do not let Satan put enmity between you and your fellow human beings. The Quran is giving us guidance for us to become aware and to live at a higher level. I've told us in the series of lectures and other series as well that we have been in a fallen state. After Adam and Eve had their conversation with Satan, where he convinced them that it's good, that you can experience immortality and a world that does not perish, Adam and Eve had a fall in consciousness. That means they became unaware. That means they stopped experiencing security. They felt threatened. That's what the Quran says. When Adam asked Allah, he repented to Allah. Allah said, there you and your people will remain until guidance comes to you. Those who receive the guidance, they no longer will be insecure. They no longer will be astray. Their hearts will no longer be diseased. But those who don't receive the guidance, they don't remember Allah, Allah won't remember them. Those who don't receive the guidance, those who do not turn away, those who turn away from the remembrance of Allah, theirs will be a depressed life. Are you with me? All of us, you and me, everybody is unconscious until guidance comes to us, until we are guided. I'm not talking about being brainwashed when you were little with truth. If they use truth to brainwash you, that's not really helping you become an aware and experiencing adult. He's not guiding you to become a person who's beyond the satanic self. I call it the phantom self, the satanic self. You understand? When you are living prior to guidance, you are living unconsciously and you are living subconsciously. And your life shows that. It shows how you relate to Allah, that very often people don't relate to Allah. Or if they're unconscious and subconscious, the great deceiver has deceived them about Allah. They think they are Allah conscious. They're not really Allah conscious. But somebody who's Allah conscious operates very differently from somebody who is Allah unconscious. Those who are aware of Allah, the Quran says those who are aware and those who are unaware are not the same. They're not the same. Get what I mean? If people are behaving like unaware people and they say, no, we have Allah consciousness, the great deceiver has deceived them about Allah. Because if you become aware of Allah, you will no longer be the same you. You will submit that satanic self. That satanic self that we've been living our whole lives, and we've been perpetuating, and we've been committed to living as the person we've been living, unaware, unconscious, living subconsciously, living without a relationship, a proper relationship with our Creator. We don't even know what submission is. We don't even know how to relate to ourselves. We don't even know how to relate to our bodies. We don't even know how to relate to our lives. We're not playing a constructive role in our lives, bringing us closer to Allah. We're not playing a constructive role in our lives, caring for us, getting proper guidance and support, learning, growing and developing. You remember I told you the Quran has about 700 times the theme of learning, growth and development. That it's all about become aware, become conscious. This is how you can live at a higher level. Human beings that are believers, they excel. I speak of human excellence. The Quran says you are the best of creation. Who? The believers. Why? Because we don't live unconsciously and we don't live subconsciously. We choose awareness and we choose experiencing. You know what I mean? Now, many people are still like in madrasa learning. When you're a little boy or a little girl and they taught you, say this, say that, believe this, do that. And many people have grown up as little children with their understanding, and they haven't become aware of Allah. And they haven't experienced Allah consciousness. And they live their lives thinking they are believers. The Quran says, do not say that you're a believer, for faith has not entered into your heart. Rather say you're submissive in religion, but don't say that you're a believer. We are talking here about the purpose for our being here. What is it that we are here? What is our responsibility here? You see, the Quran gives us the whole picture. The Quran tells us that human beings will operate in an unconscious way, defeating themselves, their bodies, their lives, defeating the opportunities that Allah has given to us. We won't take it. You know what I mean? Allah says He put love and compassion in our hearts, that we may dwell with each other in tranquility. But when you worship Satan, when you don't know about Allah because the chief deceiver has deceived you, and you are unaware of Allah's greatness and His compassion and His love and His mercy, you're not aware of Allah, you won't, with your partner or relationship, you won't have any compassion for your partner. You won't have any love for your partner. The Quran says Allah put love and compassion in our hearts that we may dwell with each other in tranquility. But when you are worshipping Satan, you don't know Allah, you are in that phantom self, you're in that arrogant self, you're just there for you. I exist. It's up to me. I'm here for myself. Or I'm here for everybody, or I need somebody to be here for me. And we just live without dependency on Allah. We don't know that we are created free to depend on nobody and nothing created, to rely only on Allah. You get what I mean? People who don't know Allah, I was one of them, they don't experience a life of freedom. Freedom. What is freedom? Like struggle free, suffering free. If you have in your life struggle, now I'm not talking of the struggle like the Prophet had to, teach truth to a barbaric people, and his love for truth and how he championed that. That was not struggle that I am talking about. That was an application, a very honorable application. It's when you stand for something that you are in support of and that benefits yourself and other people. That is a jihad. You get what I mean? You stand for truth. You're not against anybody, you're not trying to hurt anybody, but you remain an agent of truth. That kind of a struggle, that I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a struggle that when you fail to remember Allah, yours will be a depressed life. When you feel strained in life and struggle, like you're not free, like somebody or something is an authority over you, that you're suffering because you're not aware of Allah. The Quran says Satan stands on the path and renders the people kafuran, that they are not appreciative. You see, they're not in that higher believing, receiving self. They haven't submitted this arrogant, ignorant, unappreciative self, this needy self. You get what I mean? If you're living your life and you haven't become aware of Allah, you will remain unaware and you live subconsciously, and you will never experience Allah's sufficiency for you. You'll never experience that. You'll never know that you are the creation of Allah in His care. You've already been given life. You've been given life as the highest level of life form on earth. You've been given endowments and capabilities and capacities. The Quran even tells us we created with status and standing, given privilege above all other creation on earth. The Quran tells us that we are the favored creation. The Quran on earth, the Quran tells us that Allah wants ease for us. The Quran tells us, look and see how Allah supports us. He does everything for us. We don't have to do anything to exist. We exist in our life, we exist through our death, and we exist beyond our death. It's got nothing to do with us, our existence. But yet those who are unaware of Allah, His greatness, His graciousness, those who are unaware of the power of Allah and the privileging of us by Allah, those who are unaware of them, they live without Allah consciousness. They can have ideas. I learned this, I learned that, I believe this, I believe that. You know, the tribe that we come from is full about beliefs. They're full of their BS. You know what I mean? The belief systems. They're full of it. This is what we believe. This is what we believe. We believe. Your belief. In not really Allah aware. See, Allah is telling us the first and most important thing. Look, the guidance of the Quran is to all humanity, and the guidance of the Quran is complete. Right from the most important thing, don't let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah, right till how you eat, you understand, and how you relate. Don't let Satan put the seeds of enmity in your hearts for each other. This is Satan. Do you understand? Quran is telling us, the message of Allah to us through the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is that we are to become conscious, that we are living unconsciously. You get what I mean? We are to become aware that we are not really experiencing salam. You know, we're not really experiencing peace. We're not experiencing Allah's beingness, and we're not experiencing being related to by Allah. We're not aware that Allah is the fair and the just, the lenient, the approachable. Allah is the compassionate, the merciful. Allah is the forgiving, the pardoning. Allah who produced us perpetuates us. Allah promotes us and privileged us. Allah has given us value. Allah values us, and Allah favors us. We already have been given by Allah existence as the highest level and the endowments. The Quran says, which of the favors of your Lord do you deny? And yet you'll hear people saying, Allah we need, Allah we need, we need, we need, we need. These are the same people that don't know Allah. Because if you know Allah, you will know the gracious nature of Allah. You can't ask Allah as a person who is unaware of Allah. The Quran, Hadith Qudsi rather says, what you expect Allah to be, Allah is to you. So if you act like Allah is withholding from you, and you have to beg Him and force Him, then you will experience that in your life. I am following what the Quran says. If you are thankful, Allah will give you. And if you're thankful, Allah will give you more. You don't have to ask. Or let me say it properly. You don't have to beg. If you are thankful, Allah will give you more. Where is the begging there? Do you understand? So people don't get it. These people who are not believers, but they are submissive in religion, even that is questionable. They think they are Allah aware. But how they're relating to Allah is not a way that any person who is aware of Allah would relate to. Anybody who is aware of Allah is aware of Allah's greatness and graciousness. See, that's the most important thing. To recognize Allah's power and sufficiency for us, to recognize Allah's privileging of us and His adequacy for us. That we have been given. We have Allah. First, let's start there. Satan doesn't want you to know you have Allah. You are the most, given on earth. The human beings are the most privileged. You have been given a privilege. Satan doesn't want you to know Allah is powerful. Satan doesn't want you to know that Allah is the great. Satan doesn't want you to experience being humble in front of Allah. I can tell you that this is the path, the straight path. It's the path of humility before Allah. If you are not humble before Allah, it's over. The Quran says, do not be among those people who walk on the earth arrogantly. Do not be among those people who walk on the earth arrogantly. The Quran says, be humble before Allah. Be humble. The believers are humble. What does that mean? The believers are aware we could do nothing for ourselves, that we could do nothing to cause ourselves, we could do nothing to continue ourselves. It is Allah who has favored us with existence. Allah who has favored us with benefits, with privileges. The believer is aware that Allah's grace is primary. Do you understand? That we could do nothing to be and yet we are. That's called grace. You could do nothing to be the highest life form on earth, but yet you are. So, sad for those people who say, Allah, we need, Allah, help us, help us, help us. Allah has already given you. For those who are aware of Allah, they understand that Allah's graciousness permeates all of existence. Allah is the all-gracious. This one power, absolutely powerful, the supreme, unique power that is beyond this world, this intelligence because of whom this world is, that intelligence is, and that intelligence nature is grace for humanity. See, who will see that? Who will see that? Not everybody. The Quran says most of human beings are ungrateful. Who will see that? The person who chooses to live more consciously. The person who chooses to live experiencing peace. The person who chooses to live as a believer is a person who chooses to be aware of truth and experiences security. Security. A mu'min. Don't say you're a believer. Mu'min. Don't say you're a believer. Rather say as-salamna. The Quran says that you have submitted in religion. But don't say you're a believer, for faith has not entered into your heart. Who is a believer? The secure. The secure. The one who is aware of truth and is assured. The one is aware that this intelligence is beyond this creation. This creation is because of this intelligence. This all-great, all-powerful, this all-gracious, generous, privileging intelligence. God is. Allah is. And Allah is the unique that we will never ever fully comprehend. Allah is beyond our level of confidence. It starts off with humility. I can't really fully comprehend Allah, but I can comprehend to the degree that He has given me the ability to comprehend. Nobody created can comprehend the greatness and the power of Allah. Nobody and nothing created can comprehend the graciousness and the privileging nature of Allah. But to the degree that we can as human beings, I choose that level of awareness. I choose that level of experiencing. Nothing is more important to me than becoming more aware and living more consciously. Firstly, of my Creator alone, that who really is. You see? And I find that when you believe in Allah, the Quran says He guides your heart. Like when you are thankful, He gives you more. You don't have to say, Allah give me more. Allah gives you more. Allah, I need you to give me more. We need you. We need more from you. Who are you talking to? Satan has deceived you regarding Allah. Who are you talking to? Some imaginary idea in your mind. If you are aware of Allah, if you believe in Allah, He will guide your heart. You don't say, please, I'm begging you, please, I need you, guide me, guide me. Allah is the guiding. Allah is the freely guiding. You don't know. Do you want to know? Your days and life is coming and going. Will you really know Allah? Do you really want to know Allah, or do you want to live in the fast of hypocrisy that people are living in? Will you be part of the mass? The Quran says, the way of the many is tragedy, but the way of the few is truth. The way of the many is a travesty. The way of the few is the truth. What will you love? Will you worship Satan forever, thinking you're a believer? Submissive in religion, that's questionable too. Or will you become aware of your Creator? Will you experience Allah consciousness? Will you actually experience humility before Allah? Now, people are like, we're worshipping Satan, Ashraf. People are like that. Ashraf, we are more worried about, we're going to live forever, this world will never end. We're living. Look, get onto the streets and see people are moving here and there and here and there and here and there and here. They're so busy. But what does that busyness do? I mean, look at your own life. What is that busyness really achieving? Is that busyness coming from the phantom self, the satanic self? Keep busy, do this, do that. Is there any part of your day that you reserve for your Creator? Not for your childish ideas of what it means to be a believer. When I say childish, I mean when you're growing up as a child, you had these ideas. Do you open up to the study of Allah consciousness? Do you open up to the purpose why we are here? I'm not saying that you should. I'm just asking you. Look, I'm not getting upset with anybody. The Quran tells us plainly, who Allah leaves to stray, none can guide. Who Allah leaves to stray, none can guide. I pray that whoever's listening to this, that you are not one who Allah has left to stray. I pray. You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to guide you. You know what I mean? Because you're not getting it. That Satan is an enemy of our human beings are to be operating at a higher level of awareness. If you want to continue to be the way you've always been, if you are committed to remaining the same, unconscious, denying Allah, subconsciously projecting power onto people, things and experiences, kufr and shirk, and you remain a munafiq. You say you believe, but you don't. Remember what the Quran says? There are many people who say they believe in Allah in the last day. They don't really believe in Allah. And they don't really believe in Allah. In their hearts is a disease. And they are astray. And Allah leaves them to stray, and their hearts, the disease is expanded. Shukr to Allah, my heart is more at peace than it's ever been. This is a sign that Allah puts tranquility in the hearts of the believers, that they may increase in faith. Little by little, we move forward, increasing in faith. You get what I mean? This is not for everybody. This is only for those who Allah guides. This is only for those who want to be among those who Allah guides. If you are like, I don't need to be among those. My Maulana Guru guided me. Maulana Guru and gang, they guided me. My parents guided me. We have no guide but Allah. We've got to submit to Allah. Tawheed, humility before Allah. We couldn't cause ourselves. There's no Allah in us. We can't even say Allah gave us something because there's no us. We are created beings in a created world. We came into existence. And if you start seeing this is humility. Your real self, your believer self will emerge. And your receiver self will come forward. Your real self, your believer self, and your true self, your receiver self will emerge. Your life will change. If you become aware of Allah's greatness, the believer in you, you'll start seeing it, you'll start thinking differently, and your quality of your life, you will change. Let me say it properly. You will transform when you become aware of Allah, because you will actually be a believer. A believer is not a noun. It's not a descriptive word. A believer is not something. A believer is a person who is aware and experiencing security. Somebody might say, I believe this, so I'm a believer. No. A believer is aware of Allah, experiencing Allah consciousness. When you remember Allah, verily in the remembrance of Allah, hearts experience assurance. That's what the Quran tells us. It is in the remembrance of Allah, hearts experience assurance. What else does the Quran tell us? It tells us when you remember Allah, hearts soften. The hearts of the believers, when they remember Allah, their hearts soften. It tells us that those who have hardened hearts, they are not inclined to remember Allah. You understand? So that I am remembering Allah and experiencing assurance, security, okayness, His sufficiency for me, I feel assured, I recognize I can't give me anything. I don't have to get Allah to give me anything. Allah has already given to me. Allah is the trustworthy. I release into the care of Allah. I experience Allah's trustworthiness. I become thankful and Allah gives me even more. I am remembering Allah willingly and voluntarily. I don't have a parent or anybody telling me, hey, Ashraf, you got to go now and remember Allah. I choose. In fact, I look forward to my time with Allah, because that's a time where with no other human being I can experience that assurance and reassurance. The caring of Allah, no human being can care for me. Not my parent, not a spouse, not a child, not anybody. And in fact, I can't care for anybody that way too. Only Allah's caring. When you become aware of Allah and your heart softens, you will love spending time with Allah. You will love it. And the time that you spend with Allah will be the best time, better than you spend with anybody. And you will never fear anybody leaving you or anybody not giving you. You'll experience Allah's caring. Even if you're not caring for you, you know Allah's caring is there. Even if others are not caring for you, you'll know Allah's caring is for you. The more you become aware of Allah, you will know that Allah is free of blame. Allah is free of blame. We cannot blame Allah for anything. Anybody who's blaming Allah that Allah is not giving them, they are not aware of Allah. They're not aware. And the Quran is true, that if you turn away from the remembrance of Allah, yours will be a depressed life. And from that depressed life, you'll be like, in your own ideas, I need this, God, I need that, help me, He didn't help me, He created my problems. You don't know Allah. You don't know Allah, you talk like that. How can you? Now don't feel bad if you don't know Allah. You can admit you don't know Allah and you can say, I'm very sorry Allah, I have remorse. I'm very sorry. I don't know Allah the way other people who know Allah. And they experience security when they remember Allah. When they think of Allah, their hearts soften in the remembrance of Allah. The more you remember Allah, the Quran says, the more you succeed. There's a reason for it. Because you go beyond your unaware and unconscious ways. And you feel secure. For those people who want to continue remaining the same, they're committed to their satanic self. In their hearts is a disease because the guidance came to them, they turned away from it, or they're not interested in it, right? In their hearts is a disease. And Allah has left them to stray. They are not interested in bringing to Allah a purified heart. They're not interested in bringing to Allah a purified heart. Now, I'm not upset about that. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm just telling you, are you one of those people who live your life in the illusion of your immortality, that you will never meet Allah, you will never return to Allah? Are you living in an illusion, a satanic illusion, that this world is the only world, you live for this world? The Quran says this world was created to see who will incline to truth, who will turn to Allah, who will humble themselves, who will draw closer to Allah, who would go beyond the satanic contract that Adam and Eve made with Satan. Who would go beyond that? I am among those who have been guided. Shukr to Allah. I believe in Allah. He guides my heart. He shows me the error of my ways. Every day I'm learning and I'm growing. Every day I see the oppression I've created against my own soul. The Quran says those who fail to appreciate, commit an oppression against their own soul. The Quran says those who appreciate for the benefit of their own soul. I didn't know Allah. I didn't know what humility was. I didn't know what appreciation was. I didn't know. When you live in the world in your head and you live controlled by your behaviors, you're not aware and you're not experiencing peace. And you're not experiencing Allah's relating to you. And you're not experiencing being comforted and assured and reassured. And you're just living without feeling that connection with Allah, that bond with Allah, that God esteem and that human esteem, that bond with yourself, that self-esteem and other people esteem. respect for Allah, respect for us, respect for other humans, respect for life, appreciation of life. When you live like that, you are in the phantom self. So I ask myself the question. What do I ask myself the question? Am I aware and experiencing? When I say I, which I is this? And I realize, hey, I'm not aware and I'm not experiencing peace. I'm not in the remembrance of Allah in this moment. I'm not experiencing. So I come back. When you say I, which I is it? Is it the believing, receiving I? Or is it the denying, deceived by Satan I? The dismissing I? I choose to be the one aware and acknowledging of Allah and humble bow before Allah. I choose to be that I. That I that is assured and reassured that Allah is sufficient for me, adequate for me, enough for me. That's the I that I really am, the real self, the believing self. The I that I really am is the appreciative self. The I that registers Allah and His greatness and His graciousness. The I that is valuing. You see, the Quran says if you are not shakuran, then Satan has influenced you and you are kafuran. If you are not valuing Allah as absolutely valuable, and if you don't value His gifts, you are not kafuran, you are shakuran. Now don't feel bad and think, oh, I'm the worst person. Just say, Allah, I claim refuge in you from Satan the accursed. Allah tells us the first and most important thing is to become conscious of Allah and claim refuge from Satan the accursed. And then elsewhere in the Quran He tells us, eat properly, be conscious, live properly, how you relate to people. Satan is the one that's causing you to have enmity with each other. Satan is causing you to eat in ways that are destructive. But the first thing is, Satan is an enemy avowed. Do not let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. If you really want to live with awareness and experiencing, if you want to go beyond unconscious living, subconscious operating, then that must be in your heart. I'm a believer on the refuge. I claim the refuge with Allah. Allah is a refuge. Satan is not another bad God. Satan is not a God. Don't think Satan has power. Satan has no power. Allah alone is, and Allah alone has power. But when you don't know Allah and His power, you will be influenced by Satan. And Satan will say himself, it says in the Quran, you know I could not control anybody. You know I'm only the prompter. You know that I'm only the suggester. Shaitan is not a God. Shaitan is not an evil God. Shaitan has no power. Allah has power. If you are aware of Allah's power, if you want to become aware of Allah's power, if you will humble yourself in Tawheed, and if you open up to be appreciative, then the Quran tells us that over those devout in the worship of Allah, over them Satan will have no authority. Satan has no authority on those of us who are devout in the worship of Allah. Satan has no authority. That's why we believe in Allah and He guides us, our hearts. Shukr to Allah. All praise, glory and thanks is due to Allah Almighty. His choicest blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.